We need more social justice in counselor education. With Gina Wong, Yasi Lei, Sherani Sivakumar.
So I was just wondering, Nancy, in terms of doing this work, and I know that you're doing your thesis research on this topic, what made you choose this? Because I know that, when we were talking, that you could finish your degree, with one 13-week course, or do this thesis that might take you a couple of years or more. So I've just always been really curious your choices around that.
I think hmm, never really fully reflected too deeply on it, but I think a part of it has to do with why I think we need more social justice in counselor education. I think I became more reflective of the ways that I've been taught, not just within counselor education, but throughout my entire education. I've been taught that being white is the norm and that I have to get rid of my old ways of being in order to conform to white ways of being or Eurocentric
Mhm.
ways of being. And so I think I became more reflective of that, and it just made me a little more critical of counselor education and my experiences in it, and why I always feel like maybe counseling isn't for me.
Mm,
Why I feel so imposterous or why certain materials seem to flow really easily with my white peers, and I just feel what's the word? I just feel misaligned. I feel like the content is misaligned with me.
mm,
And so with think what became, I guess, the last straw on the that broke the camel's back type of thing was when we experienced the Atlanta shootings. That was in 2015. No, not in 2015. It was a few years ago. I can't remember.
mhm,
And I remember feeling devastated, and I was not really in a headspace where I could talk about social justice issues because it hit me so effective.
mm,
Like it hit me so strongly, and I was feeling the collective grief. And I remember talking to a white instructor, and we were kind of catching up about social justice issues, and because it was relevant to the course I was taking at the time.
mm.
And after hearing everything I had to say, my instructor asked me, "So how would that affect the way you work with people who do benefit from colonial oppression?" And that was like the final question I received after focusing the conversation on how we can better support people who have experienced oppression. And I remember feeling, I don't know, a part of me felt really dismissed and just made me really curious. Am I the only one that's feeling this way or feeling this is wrong? Or are there other people within the cohort that look like me and maybe have similar experiences? So that,
Mhm.
yeah, a couple of things probably contributed to why I wanted to do this research, but
Mhm,
yeah,
mhm. Well, and
those
there's
are
no forum for students of color to come together to talk about and actually get support from the program.
mhm.
So yeah, yeah, like and Sharani, for you, I think when we began the RAW group, the Asian Mental Health Research Advocacy Working Group, um, I didn't know what to expect. I just knew that, that we needed something. And yeah, I'm just wondering, Sherani, what made you join and how did you get interested in kind of standing together and making some noise around this topic?
Yeah. Um, I suppose it was a desire for like community and also the desire to like just stand in solidarity with other folks of color and like see representation from like Eugenia as being a woman of color in academia. Like I feel like that is so much lacking um, within our programs and within institutions, that similar to how Nancy felt a little bit isolated and not feeling, seen or heard in your experiences as a cultural being, or just being seen or supported in like your lived experience around like the content. It I know I very much felt imposter syndrome throughout, and I felt like the ways that like I needed to not only needed to conform like Nancy was talking about, but like I had to prove myself that I needed, like, I deserved a spot to be in this program. And I had to work even harder, or um, that I like belonged. And I feel like that is like a, s- a product of being in this like white colonial system that makes us feel like we don't belong. Um, where it has these effects of not only like feeling like we need to prove ourselves, but there are moments where I've felt silenced or felt not safe in order to kind of speak up. So I really appreciated the safety that we've cultivated in this group together, and feeling like we can talk openly and be vulnerable about, some of the harm that we've experienced, but then also like be um what's the word that I'm trying to find here? I guess vocal and trying to create change in that social justice piece too, because I know a lot of it for me was very internalized in the beginning, and I think I'm coming to a place now where I am tolerating less, which is great, and a sign of healing for sure, but doesn't make it any easier to kind of deal with some of these things for sure.
Yeah, yeah, that's so interesting. And what you're talking about and the common themes that I resonate with as well. I remember my grad program feeling like a complete fraud and feeling that way for many years, even, as a registered psychologist. But there's a different layer of it, I think, in addition to the normal student feeling like a fraud and having to try to seem like something they're not. I think there's a deeper layer because of the oppression that we've experienced, and that, a traumatic sense of not belonging and disconnection and misalignment that adds to, the loneliness that can sometimes happen in the learning spaces for IBAPoC people. And yeah, I think for me, I didn't, I was just so happy and glad to get into a program. And I was so entrenched in I felt like I was white. I had gone so far in what I thought in my development to fit in that I didn't even really think about my Asianness. And, over time I did. And, like Nancy, that, shooting of 6 Asian women, like the mass shooting in Atlanta, really, really did as well. Just kind of make me think and reflect, and went through a lot of different emotions, and recognizing how, I've stayed small and tried to be as white as possible to fit in, and that I kind of made it. I'm a professor, I'm a psychologist. And then my desire, because I have two daughters that are mixed race, and who I wanted to try to create a world or make it a better place where we can feel pride in being Chinese. And so, I started my nonprofit organization against anti-Asian racism, and still continues today, and it's been a part of an avenue to try to do something to make change. And then this work that we're doing just feels like um, a part of me that can't be stopped because of what I've witnessed and experienced myself in academia, that believes itself to be very socially conscious and decolonizing, and um, instead of the we are still learning and we need to learn from IBAPoC students and academics. So I, I'm in a place where I'm not sure how much longer I'll be in academia, but I would, again, kind of like my daughters, want the next generation of IBAPoC students to feel at least a chance of more belonging, and ways in which we can name systems of oppression and feeling of disconnection, and have ways that graduate students can feel more heard and connected with other students of color.